labeling children at that young of an age, those identity constructs will stick with them because we've decided who they are and we're communicating to them who they are before they have any sense of self. You guys, we're going to have a conversation today because one of our coaches, Noah, who's amazing, hi Noah, who lives in Spain, sent us this article from the What to Expect When You're Expecting website, which is one of the top most read websites in the whole world for parents. And so before we unpack their article, I do want to just give some appreciation to What to Expect when you're expecting, because I do feel like that publication normalized parenting education at a time when it wasn't really something that was talked about. So that being said, I'm going to share this article on the screen, 7 ways to discipline your toddler. And the subheadline, what's the best way to handle a naughty toddler? And I have to say, we're not going to go through all 7 of the steps, and some of them are better than others. But where I'd love to start, I asked Rebecca Lyddon, who's our amazing director of education and the creator of all of the curriculum that we teach our parenting coaches all over the world. Before we got on, you said you read the article and kind of had some feelings. And I'd love to start with this idea of a naughty toddler. And perhaps what that has you want to say to YouTube land.
YouTube land. Here's what I have to say about naughty toddlers. It's dangerous. It's a dangerous mindset, and I'm really going there right away. But when we see our children in this way, naughty, bad, terrible 2s, terrible 3s, this is where power over parenting really ramps up. And this is where corporal punishment really ramps up. So we can see even the word naughty in a sentence, and it can be something that you glance over and you say, oh, what's the big deal about that? It's just a word, get over it. It's not that big of a deal. And I see it as a beginning of a thread that can unspool really quickly. And it's an opportunity to check the biases we have against children and the way that we create our own suffering as parents and imprison our kids in our own suffering. And we don't want to do that anymore. We want everyone to feel free and to be seen at a human level, not as a label.
I mean, we're talking about toddlers, 18-month-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, really young
Babies.
babies.
Not toddlers, babies.
And it baffles my mind that we're still in a social construct where any baby could be deemed naughty.
They're just being babies.
They're just being babies. And what I hear in your words and kind of my own bristling at that is if we start to use your words, labeling children at that young of an age, those identity constructs will stick with them because we've decided who they are and we're communicating to them who they are before they have any sense of self or separation in themselves from their primary caregivers. It is a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And yet we get this question all the time, Rebecca, how do I control my 2-year-old? How do I get my 4-year-old to sit still? And so let's back up, and I'd love to just for you to share some quick education about what's happening in a toddler's or a baby's brain that can maybe have us have a different expectation of behavior from these littles.
So many things. I spent the morning deep diving into several theories of development with our graduate students, and 1, 2, or 3 that are popping up, and I'll try to be brief, is the psychosocial developmental model, which is Erik Erikson's work. And it is our understanding of where our children are at in psychologically and how they're going to engage socially with their caregivers and the community. And at 2 and 3, they're in something called autonomy versus shame and doubt. That means that, like you said, they're at the very beginning of their understanding that they are a separate human being with in separate, unique, instinctual drives. And their core developmental task at 2 and 3 is to individuate and to begin to secure a sense of self and a sense of autonomy. So holding that psychosocial developmental phase that they're in, they're also in a huge physiological developmental leap, and they need to be following their impulses. This is Maria Montessori's work and many other theorists of being connected to their will, being in their vibrancy, their vitality, their, ooh, look, that, and touch that, and follow impulses and be instinctual and be in their body. And we want to be grounding our kids into engaging in their environments in a way that's not going to harm them. There are limits that need to happen. But the psychosocial developmental phase, if the child is met with a perception of labeling, that is internalizing shame for being who they are and where they're at in their natural state, exactly what they're meant to be doing. It is making it wrong for them to be who they are. 100% of my personal parent coaching clients struggle with parenting because they are ashamed of being who they are and feel guilty for everything that they
It
do.
doesn't end.
It doesn't end. It just gets so much worse. And as they're following their autonomous, instinctual, I would say biologically driven drive to just be themselves and to be in defiance, it's actually part of their developmental task. It's like, no,
Yeah,
I need to be
that
who
these
I
people
am.
know works.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have to do it. They have to do it. So I think this article is the best attempt of supporting parents to be able to meet their child in this developmental task of securing a sense of who I am is okay, and what I desire and what my will drives me toward is okay, not something to be ashamed of or feel guilty about. But it's missing the nuances and the creativity and the relationship that we protect here at Jai. That's where all of our techniques come from, is preservation of relationship, preservation of the child's sense of esteem, and to teach skills, not just shut down impulses and natural normal behaviors.
Yeah, I mean, some of the suggestions in the article weren't problematic in and of themselves, right? Redirection is a really powerful tool for small
Mm-hmm,
children.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, but this idea of using timeouts, even in a limited way, to my mind, and I'm not the child development expert here, you are, would be contraindicative
mm-hmm.
of a 2 year old actually divesting of that energy and creativity and wonder in the world in the way that's going to best help their brain development to a place where they can retain the rules from yesterday to today and they can map what happened last week to a current scenario. But that, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, is even something that's in the realm of possibility for a 2 or 3 year old.
No. A timeout would only happen if you're wanting to keep the child safe. Like, we're needing you to sit on this chair. We've asked several times for your body to stay away from the fire, and your body's struggling to stay away from the fire because it's so amazing, isn't it? Your body wants it, your body can't control. We get that. And also, we're going to create this little nest for you. We love you. We want to take care of you. We want to keep you safe. We're like, here's your little throne for you, and I love you so much. Like, that's the energy that if we were to, like, hey, time out, your body is in danger, we're going to keep you safe. That's like, yeah, you use that. Please keep your kids safe.
Yeah. I love what you
Yeah.
just said because it reminds us to meet them in their world, right? How can we make the redirection playful, fun, creative?
Beautiful.
I mean, my kids are
Yeah,
teenagers now, but I remember we used to put the laundry baskets and have them build birds' nests with pillows and,
great idea.
yarn on their head. And it
Oh,
moved them away from,
yeah,
hitting each
exactly.
other over the head with blocks, which did used to happen all the time.
Oh, I bet it did.
At
Right on
what
time.
age is
Mhm.
it appropriate to start to have more expectations
Mhm.
of consistency of boundaries and limits, would you say?
Ooh,
Generally
gosh.
speaking.
Yeah, big one. So Mona Delahooke, in her book Beyond Behaviors, plants this seed for us, and then we get to keep growing it. There are many theorists, there are many frameworks, and sometimes they cross each other out. So I'm hesitant to put my full devotion into any one way, but we work with developmental neuroscience here. So we want to understand, but every kid is so different. But I would say 3.5 is when something called executive functioning skills begin to blossom. This is the front of the brain where the child is able to remember. I remember that time when I pushed my brother down the stairs. He got hurt. I felt sad. Mommy didn't like that. I'm gonna maybe not do that. But like the chances of that registering for a child that young, it's around 1 to 2%. But it's at least happening where you can say, hey, go do X and Y and Z, and they might be able to do it. But as they develop their brain, and we need to understand that for a child to be expected to respond consistently and successfully to a boundary, that's a neural pathway. It's a skill that they've built. And so if we're expecting an 8 or 9 or a 10-year-old to be able to follow through on a limit when they haven't had empathetic resonance, they haven't had a connection and the practice of redirection, then we're talking to a 2-year-old
Mm,
developmentally. Chronological age does not meet executive functioning development. This is earned. Executive functioning development is earned. You don't just grow and then it happens.
mm,
We're all capable of empathy, but it's not something that just happens. It has to be modeled and nurtured. We're all capable of following directions and responding successfully to limits, but we earn it over years. But I would say around 7, this is Piaget's model of cognitive development, where they're going to resonate more with your verbal, like, hey, when I ask for you to do X, and I see that you're continuing to do Y, that's a little frustrating. When I ask for something, let's do our best to work together and to do it right away. Are you ready? Let's go. Like,
Me too,
seven,
one. Yeah.
exactly. Around 7 is when they're going to begin to be like, okay, but they might, and then 9 is this great regression where they're like this. Whenever you ask them to do something. So it's just not like boom, boom, boom. It goes like,
What I
yeah.
really also appreciate you saying is that it's our role as peaceful parents and as parenting coaches to support our clients to think about building to build those
Yes.
muscles of executive function with consistency, with repetition over time, and knowing that if a child is going to take longer, it's okay. It doesn't, again, mean that they're naughty or bad or irresponsible or the wild child and all of these things that we like to tell kids that they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So, that being said, what are maybe 2 or 3 tips that you could give a parent watching this that wants to support their young child to develop these skills?
I would say set your child up for success. So many challenging moments can be prevented if we put a bit of modeling of executive functioning skills into place, which is planning ahead. Your 2.5-year-old had a meltdown at Target because they wanted the toy, but you're saying no, and you're trying to logic with them about it. How could we have set that up more successfully going ahead of time? What could have happened? And then if you weren't able to make big shifts preventatively, how can your system come to acceptance that my child is going to have extreme emotional dysregulation at the drop of a hat? What's my plan for how I want to respond? So a
Mm,
lot of what we do with our clients is anticipate your child being a child, get ahead of it, get a plan, and practice how you want to show up. That's a very parent-centric approach, and all of our techniques tend to be very parent-centric because this is our job, not our kids' job. I would also say for toddler people, how we can best guide them and nurture them and mature them is Daniel Siegel's tool of mind sight. So it's not enough to say, in our family, we're kind and we don't hit our brother when we're angry. That's not okay. We use nice hands. We want our child's introspective mechanisms to grow. This is building impulse control, self-monitoring, and the ability to make choice.
mm,
So instead of blah, 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 we don't do that, blah, 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 it's a, hey, what's going on for you there? You had a big mad in your body. You had fire in your arms, didn't you? And it boomed out, didn't it? Yeah. We're using symbolic language. We're helping our child reflect, like, oh, that happened. Oh, and then that happened. Oh, and then that happened. Like there's sequencing to my behavior. It's not just, and we can look at them and say, you are so normal. Every 3-year-old feels this way, baby. Every 3-year-old's brain is just like your brain, and we're going to keep practicing.
mm.
Here's what we, just like what we're doing, we're being preventative, we're planning, we're also we're coaching our kid to being able to imagine what can we do next time? How can we set you up for success? These
Yeah.
kinds of things. Those are 2 tips. Are those practical enough, or
I
should I
think they
try?
are practical. I think there's a third that I thought of, and again,
Okay.
I'm so far out from this age of parenting, but making sure that there's opportunity throughout the day for that natural state to be expressed, right? Where there's plenty of open space and time to have unstructured play with, you know, handkerchiefs and things that they can really get that kind of energy out.
Mhm.
I found that really successful when the kids were little, like
Has to
doing it
happen.
on purpose.
Mhm. Has to be protected. Really, like just jumping off this quickly. If we understand our child's developmental task, and if 2 and 3 is follow your impulses without any limitations, they need that. We need to protect it. We need to make sure it's happening for them, or they're going to seek it in every other moment because they have to. That's like, that is their food. It's what they need. So educate yourself also. A simple Google, I guess maybe not. Like we've got a lot of dead ends here on the internet, but
Don't read the article if it says how to handle your naughty toddler.
yeah.
I'll start with that. Rebecca,
Yeah.
thank you so much for
Oh,
everyone watching. I think the big takeaways from this are educate yourself as a parent so that we all don't fall into the trap of uh, what's the word that I want? Like making bad what is normal. I'm sure there's a better word for that that's not coming at this time. And being careful of what we consume, right? That we're not falling into
yeah.
a narrative that says that children should be doing anything. We get to
Mhm.
parent the children that we have.
Mhm. Yay.
All right, everyone, go have fun. Go get some handkerchiefs. Build a nest. We'll see you next
Yeah.
time.